Welcome, everyone, to the MMA Happy Hour podcast. I am Kyle Anthony, your host for today. We are talking UFC Vegas 104, headlined by Marvin Vettori and Roman Dolidze. We're going to be breaking down 4 plays here on the show today. Now, if you want to become a client, link down in the description. Have a 4% play up for clients already locked in for it. Really like this spot since August of last year. We have cashed 80% of cards, which has been absolutely fantastic. Last weekend was not one of them, though, because Alex Pereira blew it for us. We were cashing tickets early, did not hit on Pereira. That would have made it an absolute monster night. Missed on that one, but we're going to get it back this weekend, so I'm excited about it. Again, if you want to become a client, link down in the description. And let's dive into the main event of the evening between Marvin Vettori and Roman Dolidze. Now, we've got Vettori here. He is minus 155. On the comeback, we've got Roman Dolidze plus 130. Now, this is a rematch of their fight back in 2023 where Marvin was able to kind of do what Marvin does, move forward, throw big shots, outland Dolidze over the 3 rounds, outlanded him 106-71. Nice performance from him there, ends up getting the victory. Now, you look at Dolidze. There is a lot that he does bring to the table when you're talking about just his dangerous ability, really. And you've got Dolidze. He does have some big power. He will land some big shots, and he does back that up with some nice jiu-jitsu, high-level jiu-jitsu game. He's a world champion grappler. The guy does have the goods when you're talking about that lethal submission game. If he gets you to the ground, there's no doubt about it that he can find those submissions. Now, the big red flag here for me on the Dolidze side is definitely going to be his shit cardio. It's going to be his very bad cardio. Does not have the best cardio when you're looking at it overall. And, the issue here for it is that, he really only has about like a round and a half cardio. I mean, that's almost it. And it continues to show up fight after fight. He does have some early knockout wins, early victories, and that has helped him kind of protect some of that cardio. But, early, it's going to be big power shots. He can be explosive. There are going to be things he can do well, but massively declines as this fight wears on. And his limited ability to really shoot repetitive takedowns and being able to fuel those repetitive takedowns, I think is a huge issue for him. And not just on Saturday night, but I think in his UFC career, I think it's just not a good sign. Just really limits what he can do. Because again, on the mat, he is high level, but he just doesn't have the ability to continually push that type of pace. And I think that, again, could be competitive early, but I think as the fight wears on, it fits into what Marvin Vettori does. And that's the thing with Marvin here, is that he can really weaponize that cardio, that pace, that volume. And that's really, a recipe for good things to happen against a guy that has terrible cardio, not the highest output, and can really tick down as the fight wears on. And that's the thing. You're going to see Vettori push a pace, have that pressure, stay in the face of Dolidze, and really look to wear on him. And that's something else that I think that Vettori does very well. It's not the sexiest way to go out and get victories, but he can grind on you. He'll lay on you, push you up against the fence, work you there, dirty box you for as long as the ref is willing to let the fight go on for. And that's a success place for him. And, not only the fact that he does have those types of things, but the fact that he also, does have durability. And although he got, the brakes beaten off him in his last fight against Jared Cannonier, but wasn't put away. And that's something else, is that this guy has never been finished in his professional career. Vettori, his chin was almost cracked in the last one. But again, he does have the ability to at least be durable enough to withstand some of this crazy stuff that may happen in a fight like this, where explosiveness and the big shots from Roman, can he take those shots? But striking wise, I do give, the more polished striker to Vettori. And now I know that even sounds kind of crazy, but Vettori does have some at least cleaner, more polished striking compared to what Roman does. And he's just going to throw big overhands, look to land the bomb. And that's almost it. Again, if you can land it, good for him. But against Vettori, who does have a chin, I think that can hold up. And then the other big advantage here for Vettori is that this is 5 rounds. And again, it's playing into the theme, what I was just talking about, being able to, withstand some of these shots, the cardio, all these things, really Vettori's style is built for 5 rounds, is built to, take an early punishment or at least weather some early storm. And then as the fight wears on, he can just keep pushing the pace, keep pushing out that volume, keep pushing up against the fence, look for takedowns, and just throughout the fight, really being able to, blend together that cardio and that volume and find a lot of success. And I just don't really think that, let's say, style is really built for 5 rounds. He has to find that finish. And again, you haven't seen Vettori get finished. I think that is very tough for Roman to find success in this type of fight here, unless it's an early finish. And the better minute winner here is also going to be Vettori. So I like Marvin Vettori here, even at this minus 155 number. I like Marvin Vettori to get the job done in the main event. Now, the next one here we're going to be talking about is going to be Waldo Cortez Acosta, minus 170. On the comeback here, we've got Ryan Spann, plus 150. Now, you look at Waldo, the guy definitely has some nice boxing. He's got some good boxing, good range. He can push some nice volume out there, sets up with his jab. He can mix it up pretty well. And there are some things that he can do very well that I think, in this type of fight here where Spann, we're not really sure how he's going to look moving up in weight, but you do have Waldo that is going to be able to have some of the opportunities to land some bigger strikes. Now, the one big thing here that, I always go back and you got to look back at tape, past footage, all of those things. And one of the things that sticks out is that Waldo has really fought nobody. I mean, he really has fought absolutely nobody in the UFC. He's 12-1. He's got that nice record. I think that, that looks great and all. But he's 5-1 in the UFC. Okay, that's great. But if you look at the guys he's beat, I mean, this is bottom of the barrel fighters in the organization. Like the worst of the worst is who Waldo has beat. And now Waldo is somehow a ranked fighter. I mean, this is like bottom of the barrel. This isn't even the bottom of the barrel. This is like under the barrel, like outside the barrel, under it. Like that's how low level these guys are. And you look at them, Jared Vanderaa, 1-6 in the UFC, Chase Sherman, 2-6 run in the UFC before he was cut. Lucas Brzeski, 1-5 run in the UFC. Andre Arlovsky Andre was like 45 years old and on a 4-fight losing streak. And then Rubelis Despain, who, Despain does have power, but he is not an MMA fighter. And really, he was landing on Waldo, and then Waldo needed takedowns in order to find success and get the victory. So again, low level opposition, has beaten some of them, has looked a little dicey in some of those spots. But the only real fighter that he fought that I thought was at least of substance was De Lima. And, that was a fight where at least he's got a guy who's going to look for takedowns, who's going to mix up, who's going to be a wrestler. And that's where he lost. He wasn't able to check any leg kicks. He got taken down. And you do have De Lima who got the victory there. And that's where you look at Ryan Spann here, who is moving up in weight, from light heavyweight to heavyweight. And I think that's actually going to be a really good thing for him here where, we have seen his cardio not look the greatest, that I think, honestly, I do think that this is going to be a spot where moving up in weight is going to help him. He's not going to look to drain himself. He is a very big guy for the light heavyweight division. And now I don't think he has to cut enough weight or cut any weight to have to deal with any cardio concerns here. So that may help him in this spot. Now, he has had his ups, his downs, but at least he's fighting UFC caliber fighters. I mean, at least he's fighting those types of fighters where, again, you've just not seen Waldo fight any of those guys, and at least he has. Now, also the big thing here is that Ryan Spann's going to be way more well-rounded compared to Waldo. And again, Waldo's going to have some striking. Waldo's going to have those things, but really it's boxing, and he's not going to look for takedowns here. This is not where Waldo is going to look for takedowns at all, because Spann is very good when it comes to his front chokes. When it comes to any of his chokes, he's able to really find those, sink them in with a guy that's not very clean, not very crisp in Waldo when you're talking about just level changes. Also, the power dynamic and the finishing ability really goes to Ryan Spann, where, Ryan Spann, out of 22 victories, 19 by finish. This is a guy who can find those finishes and is going to hunt for them. And I think, again, the mix of all those things, I think, does point you towards Ryan Spann in this spot. I think he's going to be more athletic. He's going to be more explosive. Also, again, that path of grappling, that path of wrestling is absolutely going to be there. And I just think that that's where he can go. Smaller apex cage. I think he's going to look to dive at legs. He's also probably going to have, the physicality advantage here. Even though he's coming up in weight, I think he's going to have that advantage to look to muscle down Waldo. And I think once Waldo's down, it may be one-way traffic. It may be a ground and pound. It may be a submission. I think Ryan Spann has that upside here. So I think in this spot here, probably going to be Spann inside the distance, but I'm actually comfortable with Ryan Spann at plus 150 in this spot here to play the money line if some crazy stuff goes on. So I do like Ryan Spann in this spot. I think this is, dog or pass. Taking Ryan Spann plus 150. Next one we're going to talk about is going to be Damon Blackshear minus 485. On the comeback here, you got Cody Gibson. He is plus 370. Now, both of these fighters do have some similarities where, they're both well-rounded. They both have some good striking. They both got some wrestling, both have some grappling in the back pocket. They're both going to look to push a pace, and that has worked out, for both of these guys. That is their paths, is mixing it up and then looking to grind on you. And in each of those categories I just said, all of them do point towards Damon Blackshear to be the better one in all of those. Obviously, the line is indicating that as well. You're looking at a very big line in this spot here. But, the big thing here for me is the fact that, Cody Gibson is a guy that, like I was just saying, they're similar, where they're going to look to push forward. They're going to look to push that pace. And then they're going to look to kind of wear on you, grapple with you, hold you down, hold you up against the fence. And that I don't think is going to work here, because that if Cody's looking to lean on some of the grappling, I really believe that Damon Blackshear, who is a high level, when it comes to his jiu-jitsu, I think that he's really going to find a ton of success, even up against the fence or wherever this fight may go. I think he's got those advantages. And again, he's got high level jiu-jitsu. I think on the ground, far better. He's got slick reversals, slick transitions, always opportunistic where he's looking for his submission game. If he finds something, we've seen him be, very, very creative on the mat and just really lightning fast, finding those opportunities, finding top control, finding positioning. And I think that's where Cody's going to really start to get smothered here. He's going to be the more athletic fighter between these two guys as well. And again, this is another spot where I look at that, Blackshear is the more dangerous guy. He has the finishing upside between these two guys. He's got 15 victories, 12 by stoppage. And I think also you look at Cody, and Cody's getting older now, and you look at Cody, this is a guy that, again, he's looking to push a pace, but he can't really keep it going if fight isn't going his way. And that's where I think this is really going to work out well for Damon to find a lot of success, outpace him, outwork him, and look for those opportunities to get the finish. Now, you even look at Damon where, he doesn't have the best record overall, but you look at, he's 3-1 in the UFC, but he has had a tough road of fighters that he has had to face, Montel Jackson, Fareed Basharat, Mario Batista, which was like on a week's notice, and still Damon looked pretty good. And even the draw was against Yusuf Zalal, who I am very high on, also friend of the show here, but very high on him and where this kid's going to be going. He's still young and continues to grow in the sport. So again, I think that's high level guys that he's faced. Cody hasn't. And also Cody's now 37 years old. I think this is where you're going to see a big downtick in just his overall ability. I still think Damon, is a guy that can continually work up, get a little bit better. He has a nice skill set here. So getting off the minus 485 number. Now, this number isn't widely available. There's some overseas books that have this, but you can get this number inside the distance on Damon Blackshear is anywhere from like plus 160, plus 170. I think that's actually a good number here, and I think it's a likely path. I don't see Cody getting to the finish line here. I think that Damon gets a job done inside the distance. So we're going Damon Blackshear inside the distance, plus 160. And the last one here we're going to talk about is going to be Josiane Nunes, minus 185. On the comeback here, we got Priscilla Cachoeira, plus 155. Now, this is another spot where both of the fighters are somewhat similar. And you've got two females who are going to look to brawl, want the violence, welcome the violence, and willing to throw and exchange in the pocket. And then you also have that part of it mixing with the fact that they both have terrible defense and are willing to eat punches. And that out the gate, and I talk about this a lot on the show where, I take a lot of plus money fighters because that, if it's kind of down the line or kind of down the middle, and this kind of looks like another fight like that where it maybe is a slight favorite one or the other, or should be a -110 on each side, the plus money is way more attractive. Plus, that's just a stronger bet between these two. And that's the one thing here. This is a high variance fight. This is a very high variance fight. And there's going to be mistakes on both sides of these on this. You're going to have wild exchanges between both of them. And to really lay like a 2-1 on, Nunes, I just think is a bad play. Whether she wins or loses, to me, it's a bad play. It's almost like Francis Marshall we were talking about last week, where yes, Francis Marshall was robbed. We called that here plus 250. But, even the fact with Santos, Marin Santos, it's just a bad bet. Even that he won, it's not a good bet because it's just the price was terrible. His path wasn't that good. And again, I think it's an opportunity where Marshall should have won. But this fight here, let's get back to this fight, is that I do think that it's just a high variance fight. And you got Nunes, who's like this little tank, who's going to come forward, throw big shots, wing shots overall. And overall, she's just going to, spam overhands. And that's really, what she does. No process to her game, no setups, no combinations, no jab, work her way into distance here. And that's kind of what Priscilla does. Priscilla's kind of the same thing. She's going to march forward. She's going to eat punches. She's willing to eat those punches. She has a massive striking differential where she absorbs a lot more punches than she lands. She is the zombie girl, and that's kind of her thing. And that's where I think that this line is off, is because that, she's on a 4-3 run, not the greatest run when you're looking at that part of it, but also the 3 females that she lost to were primarily grapplers, primarily wrestlers that submitted her. And that with Priscilla, she's someone who's willing to take these shots, who can take a punch, who will keep coming forward, and really just wants to kind of smother you with volume and just keep a violent fight going. And you look who she's lost to. She lost to Jasmine Jasudavicius, who's a solid fighter, able to get the submission. Miranda Maverick, another friend of the show. She ended up going out there, getting some takedowns, getting the submission. Jillian Robinson, another high-level jiu-jitsu practitionist, and she was able to go out there, find the submission. Now, you look at Saturday, none of those things are going to happen here. I mean, Josiane Nunes, out of her 5 UFC fights, has 0 takedowns. And I think that allows Priscilla to really move forward, to throw shots and be very comfortable cutting distance and landing big shots. And that's where I think she can find some success. She is coming off a knockout victory not long ago over Ariane Lipski, which Ariane Lipski, another friend of the show. But she ended up knocking out Ariane, and I think that's a pretty good sign. I think Ariane is a pretty solid fighter. So in this spot here, I think that she can be the zombie. She can move forward. She can eat the shots and keep throwing. And I think that these loopy shots that Nunes is going to have, I think that Priscilla can really smother her, land the bitter shots. And again, this fight should be probably 50-50. And I think seeing a sizable favor here in Nunes, you got to take the plus money here on Priscilla Cachoeira. So I'm taking Priscilla Cachoeira plus 155 to get the job done. So there you have it for UFC Vegas 104. If you want to become a client, link down in the description. Don't forget to like the video. Appreciate people liking the video, commenting. Tell me what you think about any of the fights that we do have for this Saturday night. And let's rock and roll this Saturday. And also, let's cash.